This is a litany for arrival after our G Lord. Let this poem be an elegy to your apathy. Let your heart stutter across the language of indifference. Let it be a metronome for upheaval, slow and steady at first, and then a wild crescendo, a cacophony of knuckles curling inward and sternum steering towards the sun. Let your spirit be teachable, yet emboldened. Let an ancestor place their hand on your shoulder and guide you. Let go of the belief that this work is meant for someone else to complete. Let your freak flag fly at full mast, and if the flag to which you pledge your allegiance boasts a violent crackle in the wind, let it burn with the knowledge that we can begin again. Let the anticipation of a new day carry you into a bone-deep slumber, but do not forget to rise and peel yourself away from the colonial dream that never dreamt of you. For those of us who struggle to name ourselves legibly, those of us riding dirty with fingers crossed and shit to lose, all heartstring and hammer, all harpsichord and 808s, those of us who were never normal girls, never had control, learn to two-step, twerk, beef it up, and dutty wine in the shadows of our own storm clouds. Let us be a rainbow coalition. Even the stragglers, the stratifiers, even the black gentrifiers just trying to find their way back home. Let us be silly and in love and abandon the idea of a land promised to us. There are no landlords where we are going, no parking tickets, no one with a badge or a bullet or a gavel deciding my fate. Let us walk or crawl or wheel, keeping the slowest up in the front. We are no longer racing time because the world is already dying, already glittering microplastics, already melted and brackish and sweltering. This is not a quest to turn back the hands of time. This is a radical remembrance, a recommitment to do better for as long as we remain. We can laze and shamble and saunter. We can stop along the way for photos amongst the marigolds, but we must continue on. And when we get there, we can decide that this is the time we get it right. We can release our survivor's guilt and feed one another in memoriam. We can be our own historians. We can go back to where we came from, or we can rest at our grandmother's houses, the few that never got sold, torn down, and turned into condominiums. We can post up in front of the front porch, waiting for the stars to descend, creating a new cadence for this unfurling ever after, be it happily or begrudgingly or against all odds, our chests rising and falling in unison. And when we get there, we can sing into the night, we are here, we've arrived, we've arrived.
Our bodies deserve cariño, tenderness, palabras like gordita linda, sabrosa, mujerona,
mamazota, mi luna, hermosa.
I see the genes of a bloodline, powerhouse caciques with hips for crowns, birthing round faces that look like mine. I see abuelitas con consejitos, teaching not to fall victim to glossy pages, where the only big is the injected lip of a frail woman. I see the timeline, events from Doña Elisa down to me. I am an exhibit of life's cracks and holes, healed, whole, and shatterproof. Yes, I see large and I see full. I see every person that willed my existence. I see every person who belonged to the village, each one housed in this body, a manifestation of loved by and creation, and that can never be small. I can never be small.
I could never be small. We could never be small. You could never be small.
好一朵美丽的茉莉花，好一朵美丽的茉莉花，芬芳美丽满枝桠，又香又白人人夸。让我来把你摘下，送给别人家。茉莉花呀，茉莉花。If you know my childhood, you know this folk song was my favorite, my lullaby. While tucking me in, my mother would sing me the story of Mo Li Hua, jasmine flowers, 又香又白, sweet smelling and milky white. So we asked the tree to let us 摘下, take them in gift to 别人家, someone else's home. If you were in my kindergarten class, you know Miss Robin read to us The Giving Tree. Then I had accepted the sad ending because both the tree and the boy had been happy. Now I read it and notice that the tree is she. What does it teach? What a mother sacrifices to raise a child, what women are expected to give in a relationship, what boys who will be boys expect to take, that the boy grows old but never grows up. My sister saw the giving tree as the biggest mother, who becomes a stumped fool yet still continues to give, whose nature is to nurture. If you know Earth, before she became mother, you know that she was beautiful before you had senses to appreciate her. Her weathered body, scarred and stunning, her oceans that can fill you with dreams or with water. Mother Earth has rivers that whittle mountains, yet they're never sharp enough to cut the water that carves them. My mom has a sharp tongue, a sharper mind. When we talk in Mandarin, she's always ready to correct my accent as I reach and reach for my mother's mother tongue, my American mouth, forever stumbling toward perfection, because 颜色 means color, but 淹死 means to drown to death. If you know my mother, before she became mama, you know in her first few years in America she worked in a restaurant and accidentally flooded it. Nothing major. She doesn't even remember what her mother said to her. Definitely no danger of drowning, but if there were to be a serious flood, if the same water we can't survive without were to pulse around our necks, Mama would be my lifeboat, my lifeline. If I have a nightmare when I'm 50, perhaps a mother myself, too big to be tucked in, I know I could call Mama, wake her from necessary sleep, and ask her to sing me my favorite lullaby. 让我来把你摘下，送给别人家。茉莉花呀，茉莉花。
Roots as deep as the shepherd's tree. It's no wonder that shallow emotional intelligence can never surf the waters of your wonder. Like the deepest black jade, you're the eternal Afric bodyguard. Fear, not an emotion you've been permitted to display. Navigate every desert with a baby on your back. Traverse the 7 seas from the Gulf of Guinea to the shores of Montego Bay. Spar with the devil and still have the strength to get on your knees to pray. Your velvety skin comes in a kaleidoscope of shades, a rainbow of melanistic cacao enchantment. Tougher than the bark adorning the ancient baobab trees that stand proud along the African savanna. Wisdom seeps from your pores like intrinsic sweet nectar. Your enlightened words perform delicate ballets from your tongue to the ears of those lucky enough to hear. Like willow trees in howling storms you may bend, but never break. Resilience is braided into the strands of your DNA. We don't protect you enough, don't praise you enough, don't uphold you enough. This is an ode to black women who, when told they were never worthy, chose to show and prove. And if you haven't heard it lately, I'm proudly saying, I love you.
My body, my uterus, my life, in the hands of white men. They think they know more about my body than I do. They think they understand the responsibilities my body was given to do. Although all the ladies know that when it comes to the test of a woman's anatomy, most men fail. See, there is a reason God chose woman to carry child. It takes a back strong enough to carry 2 heartbeats, 3 heartbeats, 4 heartbeats. Can you feel the rise in my heartbeat? I like to believe that God is a woman. She's not just a figure, distant and high, but a goddess within, reflecting the sky. In the spirit of liberty, she takes her stand. With compassion and strength, she leads this land. She marches in the streets with passion ablaze, her banner held high in an unyielding gaze. Her voice, a symphony of resilience. We carved her into marble in front of courthouses. She champions justice with scales in her hand. We mounted her in an ocean to withstand storm. Her flame burns bright, leading the way. So God be woman, gifted with the power of creation. Walking in every generation, in her image, we find our reflection. Such gifts and honor will cause others to interfere. Acts of fear create injustice. This may be a man's world, but my choice to an abortion should not have to succumb to the man's world. It is the double standard as to why these young boys aren't facing the repercussions, while these young girls are stuck in deadly reproductions. I don't understand. Because he gets to choose 9 more seconds of pleasure, I don't get to save myself from 9 months of his reckless sins to endeavor. God bless America, where a woman's body is more controlled than a gun. God bless America, where a woman can be held down against her will and somehow is painted by the white man's lips that this is God's will. God bless America, where if my body is no longer able to carry child, it is my womanhood that is in question. Like the blood coming down my legs was my intention. They write new legislation trying to make me the face of a new American felon. God bless America. I want to take the God out of America. No, I want to take out the men who think they are the gods of America. You have no power over me. My body, my choice, my sister, her choice, my mother, her choice. God bless America. She has a voice, but it's one they still ain't ready for.
Dear Artemisia Gentileschi, I remember hearing about you for the first time in my college classical art course. You were my femme fatale Baroque baddie, the first woman ever accepted into the same art academy as Michelangelo, and amidst the smoke of Raphael's and Caravaggio's, you were a breath of fresh air. I will never forget seeing your work for the first time, projected onto a whiteboard screen when I was 18, a painting of Judith beheading Holofernes. Everything changed. The mandatory art history credit became worth it. And before I can look away, I hear my college professor say it was inspired by your own rape. He implies that you only create because you had something taken from you. Dear Gentileschi, how does it feel to be known for the worst thing to ever happen to you? Does it bother you to know they will always say his name right after yours, that your trauma is the footnote on every masterpiece that you create? Are you okay that they grant him the privilege of muse instead of abuser? But dear Gentileschi, I hate to ask, but is it true? Do you only work so hard at your craft as a way of repairing the ruined things inside? Because broken artist to broken artist, I can't help but feel that same way sometimes, that I might only be a writer as a way of repairing what someone else has destroyed. And it scares me to think that the person who did the destruction could also get the credit. Dear Gentileschi, we can x-ray your works now, see the original versions. I see the scream on Judith's face as she plunges her dagger into Halifairness's neck. I see that you made them less violent, more commercial, more palatable. I'm sorry that you feel like your pain needed to be easy to look at. Dear Artemisia, you put your own face in your painting as Judith. Your rapist is Halifairness. I know you painted that same scene with those same faces 70 times. 70 times you killed him, night after night. Your paintbrush as a knife into neck. 70 times you committed your artistic manslaughter. Did it ever make you feel better? Dear Gentileschi, you put your maidservant in the painting too, the one who was in your house when it happened, the one who ignored your cries for help. But in the painting, she is assisting, her knee on the torso of the man as Judith decapitates him. I see you paint the solidarity that life never gave you, and I can't help but feel like that every time I am on stage, crying out for help, hoping to not be ignored this time. Did it ever make you feel better? How many more poems will I write before my pen stops feeling like a murder weapon? How long will I stare at Judith's face before I stop seeing my own?